Welcome back. This is part 2 of our lecture on Bildungsroman novels, English through popular culture. I am Wu Fong, Jason Grenier. We have been talking about the different stages of Bildungsroman, and we have talked about the initial stage, the call, and we have talked about the apprenticeship, and now we're on the third stage. We are talking about maturity. Now, maturity, we can think of this as the goal, as the result. Okay, we talked about in the previous section, the apprenticeship, we've got struggle here, challenges that must be overcome. We have a character feeling disheartened and doubting him or herself, but learning on the way. And here we get to maturity after making mistakes and failing life's tests somehow. Tests here, we don't mean school tests. We mean tests that life throws at the character. Facing these tough, difficult obstacles, the character can finally reach maturity, a more mature stage of being. And the character gains a new perspective on him or herself, starts to see him or herself in a different way. All right? Not surprisingly, perhaps, after coming through difficult struggles, the character often feels like a different person on the other side. You can think about yourself. If you've gone through difficult things, when you're done with it and you look back on it, you feel like you're a different person than you were when the whole thing started. Right? So there's the transformation of the person. And this can be easy to see for the audience too, the readers or the listeners. We see the change in the character also. The character may feel proud. They may feel a sense of pride at coming through this difficulty, a feeling that, yes, I was challenged, I doubted myself, I had challenging circumstances, difficulties to overcome, but I did it. I didn't give up. I came through it, and I'm a different person now. I'm a better person now. I'm a more mature person now. All right, something else we see with Bildungsroman, often the character accepts that he or she is not perfect, okay, that he or she is flawed. Flawed means have some problems, maybe personality, weaknesses of character, could be physical weakness, okay, moral weakness, whatever. An acceptance that he or she's not perfect, that he or she has flaws, but that they can find a way to survive in this world anyway, despite these flaws. So this is kind of the success phase, right? This is the outcome of those struggles. The character becomes a more mature man or woman after coming through all these struggles. That is the third stage. Now the fourth stage is referred to as acceptance and remedy, I should say. Acceptance and remedy. Remedy, of course, refers to solving problems. All right. So in stage 4, the character has reached this new level of maturity. He or she has grown psychologically, spiritually, morally. Okay, and at this point, more or less the adventure has come to an end. Now it's time to return home and use what they've gained to help others. Could be solving problems that they left behind, helping people that are about to go through similar challenges. Could be something like that. Could be coming back, oftentimes in myths, it's coming back with powers or some special object, special boon to set people free or to fight against evil that is holding people back or enslaving people. Right? So it could be something like that, but it could just be using your knowledge to help other people, to give them advice, for example, or to guide people through their growth process. Doesn't have to happen, okay? This stage 4, we don't always see it, all right? Or sometimes it's hinted that the character may or may not return home, okay? But not everybody does go back, so we don't always see stage 4. Sometimes the character is not going to go home, but they can still use whatever they've learned and gained on the process to help others. They can do this in the place they are at that time, or they can go to another new place and do this, okay? So they don't have to go home. But in any case, it's easy at this point to see the difference between the old version of the character who started as a younger person, a child or an adolescent, and then the new version of the character. The new version, of course, is older and wiser and more experienced, often feels more at peace with him or herself, more at peace with the world and others around them. They found a way to cope, found a way to survive, and found a way oftentimes to be happy. All right? But again, this stage 4 doesn't always happen in Bildungsroman. We could sort of see this as almost an optional stage. And in the songs that we've looked at this semester, this may or may not happen at the end. I'd ask you to think about that, the characters. One song in particular, at the end, we have a character who's considering whether to go home or not. But it's not clear whether or not the character is going to return to his home. So this 4th stage is optional in terms of actually physically going home, as well as the idea of learning what you've gained to help other people. That is optional. But we will see the 3rd point here, that we can see the difference between the old version of the person and the new version of the person, because there was a growth process and the person did become more mature from a psychological, moral, or spiritual perspective. All right. Again, it's not about physical growing up. It's about morally, spiritually, and psychologically developing. All right, so the 4th stage, we may or may not see it, but the first few stages we will. There's something that pushes or pulls the main character away from his or her home, right? Then there's the learning process through struggle, and there's those emotions of disappointment and feeling challenged and doubting and feeling disheartened, but there's a learning process. And the end result, the product of that learning, is maturity. The character grows up, all right, psychologically and spiritually and morally, and starts to understand him or herself in a different way and understand the world and other people in a different way. Right? And then the 4th stage may or may not happen, but we will be able to see the difference in the character. And that's all I have to say about Bildungsroman, except for the fact that in the second half of our semester, we've looked at 4 songs. We've looked at Stagger Lee, we've looked at Duncan, we've looked at The Boxer, and we've looked at Bad Bad Leroy Brown. And I would suggest to you that of these 4 songs, there are 2 songs that fall under this rubric, this categorization of Bildungsroman. All right, so I would ask you to give some thought to it. Which 2 songs do you think are Bildungsroman? Stagger Lee, Duncan, The Boxer, or Bad Bad Leroy Brown? Which 2 songs fall under this rubric of Bildungsroman, and why would you say that? Why would you say that these songs are Bildungsroman type stories? All right, so think about what's involved in Bildungsroman. And then go through the songs, think about the lyrics, think about the stories of the characters, and think about how those stories fit in with what we've learned about Bildungsroman today. And that is something you should be prepared to talk about, to write about on your final exam, because I can tell you, I'm going to ask you a question very much like that. Which songs do you think are Bildungsroman, and why do you say that? So give it some thought.